What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of Tony Talks To. My name is Tony Casillas. I am your host. Man, this week an interesting week. I was performing the Wichita Looney Bin in Kansas. I'm driving to the gig. I like to leave early just in case traffic comes up. Anything comes up. So I don't miss my gig. I don't have to rush, towards the end. So we're about halfway through to Wichita. And then my GPS is like, hey, let's get off the highway. And I was like, okay, wait, Zap, there's probably an accident ahead. You wanna help me out? Turns out none of that was true. It was just thinking to itself, you know what? The highway's been treating Tony good. Let's throw him a little fucking curveball. So it took me down this dirt path, and at first it's rock, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bumpy. This doesn't seem like a legit road, but it was on the app, so I was like, it's a legit road. We take a left, and my car just sinks into the dirt. And I was just like, Jesus. So try moving forward, go nowhere. Try to move back, go nowhere. So I call my insurance. I'm like, hey, I need someone to tow me out of this mud. And the guy's like, okay, he'll take anywhere from 30 minutes to 5 hours. And I was just like, I need an exact time. Got work to catch. And he goes, oh, what kind of work do you do? And I go, I'm a comedian. And he goes, I'm guessing you're a dirty comic now. He laughed. I wanted to switch insurance companies because I don't think Jake from State Farm would have talked to me like that. Jake would have cared how I felt, but not Devin at USAA. So I get out of the car. I said, fuck, I'm going to try to push it. So I try to push it by myself. Nothing. So I walk up to a house. Mind me, fucking my tennis shoes full of mud, pants full of mud. I'm just like, excuse me, sir. Could you help me? My car got stuck in the mud. And the guy who lived there just stopped and he goes, I reckon you're a city boy. And I just go, he could obviously tell by my hat, by my T-shirt, by my lack of being able to do anything manly. He could tell. So he helped me push out the car, and I made it to the gig. So that's a little story before the podcast. I hope you liked it. This week I'm excited, man. This week we have a good guest. My guest is Landry Miller. He is a comedian. He's written on some TV shows, including BoJack Horseman. And now he is running for District 4 City Council member in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I had a really fun time talking with him on this episode because we hit on a lot of different subjects. And I think you're really going to enjoy listening to this episode. If you do, always make sure to like and subscribe afterwards. Leave us a review. It helps get more people to listen. Also, follow me on Instagram at comedian Tony Casillas to see any shows I got coming up this week. Actually, from August 3rd through the 6th, I'm going to be at the OKC Looney Bin in Oklahoma City. So if you're in the area, come on out. I'm featuring for the hilarious Mike Baldwin. All right, let's start the show.
You may have heard of him, Tony. Tony.
Whoa, what's up?
How's it going?
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm surviving.
Thank God. It's tough these days.
Dude, it's weird. I'll go from doing something to being okay, I enjoyed that. Now it's time to stay home for 7 days straight.
Oh, Oh yeah, I have these moments where I'll go to the store and
Yeah.
then when I get home, I'm like, I don't know what the big deal was. I don't need people.
Yeah, people, they just hurt you. That's what this
That's
whole quarantine has taught me. People are out, they got diseases, and they want to give it to you.
they're out to destroy you. Yeah, it's amazing. And I don't know how it is there, but here in Tulsa, which currently, I mean, when this comes out, it'll already be a thing. But currently, they're voting on a mandate to make everyone wear masks. I don't know how it is down there, but up here is I walk into like Walmart and there's 3 other people with masks, not even the employees.
No?
No. Why do they need it?
Yeah.
First of all, if I worked at Walmart, I understand not wearing a mask if I could catch something deadly, but you know.
That's what happened at QT. I walked into a QT and it says you must wear a mask to enter, which I was like, oh, good. So I put on my mask and I walk in. None of the employees are wearing them. And I'm just like, oh, so you want me to protect you, but you're going to fucking like.
Yeah. I had like one instance where I walked into a store without a mask and I felt like the biggest badass in the world. But I had to go to FedEx.
Yeah.
And I do things. And and the week before I walked in there, I went in there 2 weeks and they didn't have masks on and I had masks on. So the next week when I had to go in there, I was like, I couldn't find my mask and I was freaking out. And I was like, you know what? They don't even wear masks there. So they can screw themselves. I'm going to not wear one. And then I walk in there, every person has a mask. And I'm like, oh man, okay.
Now I'm the asshole.
Yeah, this is perfect timing.
I don't know, man. Would you go to Disney right now? Disney World?
Here's my question. Because I can't give a straight answer on that. Because don't get me wrong, I've thought about it.
Yeah.
But my thing is, have they discounted the price of the tickets?
No.
Well, then no, I won't go.
They've made it more expensive because the lines are shorter and there's more ride for your buck.
Okay, then there's no way I would go. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
If it was like, I think like it's like Black Friday, like every Black Friday they like lower the ticket prices a bunch.
Yeah.
I'd go to that. I'd go on Thanksgiving. Sure. I'd abandon my family for Disney if it was discounted.
Honestly, I would rather die than go hang out with some of my family members. That is like there's some family members where I was like, oh, a deathly disease or talk about my failing comedy career one more time. Yeah, I'm going to take deathly disease.
Yeah, every time. It's not even a question. I don't even hesitate with that one.
So I have a question because you've been doing shows. I've been doing shows. How has it felt for you?
Oh, morally very corrupt, but the thing is, and this is how I justify it to myself, just so I can sleep at night.
That's an honest answer. I love it.
And that's the thing is, also not only am I doing shows, I also work for the local comedy club, which means in the way that I do the social media, I get people. My job is to make people leave their house and come see comedy in the middle of a pandemic. And the thing that sucks is I have to do that in order to pay my bills. So it's like, it's a very
also, I don't know how, I haven't been to the Looney Bins yet, but I feel like the clubs out here, honestly, I feel like out of all the public things you could go do, I feel like the comedy club is the safest. The only reason I say that is you look at the clientele, and a lot of them after shows, they'll come talk to you and be like, oh, this is the first time I've left my house. I'm going back to my house. I just needed to get out and laugh. Yeah. And then where I feel like we're not like the nightclub or the bar scene where it's like fucking double shot Tuesdays and we're going to Rager Wednesdays. I feel like people are just coming out, going to see a show, and then they're getting their ass back home.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what I've gathered. Every once in a while, you get like one or two groups. They're like, "Oh no, this is just the first stop on our crazy Saturday," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
You're still having crazy Saturdays, okay?
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, did you ever stop those?" They're like, "Nah." I'm like, "The bars weren't open. We broke in." Yeah, no, honestly, that's a common thing I hear. And also, you'd be surprised at how many people show up like in masks, and then once they get seated, take them off, they eat, they drink, they put it back on when they're done. I was telling someone the other day that on Sunday night I did a show, and it was like a comedy class graduation show. And so they needed someone decent to be on it, I guess. And so they were like, hey, come to the show. And I was like, yeah, there'll be 10 people. It'll be fine. It was sold out. There was 98 people or something in that room. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. And, but I did. And, but there was a table of these two people that had a mask on in the back room. They were the only people in there. And I was like, this is kind of an outlier tonight. Normally there's more people with masks. So I went up to him. I was like, hey, how does it feel being back here, like the only person in a mask when everyone else doesn't have one? I was like, do you guys feel weird about that? And they were like, no, we don't know what the hell these other people's problem is. Like, we're enjoying the show just fine with these on.
Yeah.
And I said, but what about the blood oxygen level in your brain?
So you're just a socialist. You're just listening to the government
Yes.
when they tell you to do something, you fucking idiot.
That's one of the best stances to take, by the way, just to mess with someone, is just to be like, so, but what about, and then of course, about 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I have made a huge mistake because now this person thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist that believes that like we're drinking children's blood to survive and stuff.
So my family's from Germany, and I'll talk to my mom, and she straight up told me, she's like, I'm honestly very happy that I live in Germany, especially right now, just because like when this pandemic hit, they were like, hey, we're going to put on masks. Everybody listened. Yeah, you had a few assholes, but overall, she said it was like a positive outcry. Like, yep, we're all wearing masks. We're all going to help each other. And I would tell people here, and some people's response would be like, yeah, that's really cool. That's really great of them. It's just, and then some people are like, well, those are the same people that listen to Adolf Hitler. They'll just listen to anything.
No.
And I was just like, I don't think it's the same thing. Wearing a mask isn't putting on the swastika and going goose stepping down fucking Berlin's highway. Like there's two different things. One is inherently worse, and it's the mask wearing. No. It's the Nazis. Nazis are bad.
No, yeah, of course.
2020, I feel like I have to remind people, Nazi.
You very much do.
They're bad. They're not the good team.
I've been fighting Nazis on Twitter the last 2 days, and it's awful. I hate it. It's the most exhausting thing I've ever had to do.
I block them. Because my thing is like, if I don't hear you, who are you yelling to? Other Nazis?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, you know what I like to do is they'll say something, and then I'll just retweet it with a positive, like this guy was like, this kid, I hear you're running for city council. The thing you're running for, though, is the ice cream truck. And I'm like, well, I'm not like known for being like obese, but I'll take
roast, though. That's a good roast.
It's pretty good. So it turns out Nazis good at roasting.
Yeah, they were good at roasting, literally and figuratively.
Yes. So I just retweeted and I say, shining endorsement from a real life Nazi, and he did not like that at all. So it felt nice.
That's man, it's so. I don't. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't want to break up this conversation, but I didn't know that you were going to. I didn't realize this was a slam poetry show just based on your outfit. So I'm sorry I didn't dress up for it.
No, this is my new look. This is the new look. I'm growing the neck beard out. Yeah. I'm trying to go like more, because we can't do comedy. So it's not. I'm not a jokester anymore. I'm more of a truth teller. Like I speak,
a real philosopher.
Yeah. Like my audience has come to this show to hear facts and nothing but facts. And if you don't have the same belief as me, don't fucking turn off the podcast. We're done with this.
Then go see Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah. I'm trying to be the less aggressive, the less aggressive Joe Rogan, where it's like, the carnivore diet, more like the dairy diet, where this is an all dairy diet podcast. I'm lactose. It's not going.
No, that's not going to go well. By the way, speaking of the carnivore diet, so when he really advocated for that for a while on his show, and my friend, I don't know why he believed Joe Rogan when he said I should only eat meat for every meal.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, when I looked into that diet, there's more than just eating only meat, but he didn't read that far into it. So he was literally eating red meat for every meal for 2 months. And boy, it did not go well for him.
How did he fit? What happened to him?
Well, he developed gout.
Yeah. That's not good.
No, and also it was like nothing, no like bodily system was happening the correct way. Like he would tell me that he would pee and it would be the most rancid smelling pee every time. And I would drink gallons of water and I could never get the smell away. And then apparently after he went back to eating normal, that lasted another couple months.
Jesus. Yeah, that's
like
not
he
good.
was embarrassed. He was embarrassed to go to public restrooms because if there was any other urinals around him, like it was so bad.
So it wasn't just like a little smell. It was like,
it'd like fill a room.
Jesus Christ.
It was like aromatherapy,
Yeah, I carnivore diet, the idea of it sounds great. Just meat. But then you're just like, I think you should probably have something else.
It seems like a good idea to do that. Well, also because I think it was based on I think they were like, oh, well, cavemen only ate deer. Yeah. And you're like, well, okay, but they also ate plants.
Yeah, and cavemen also, they died.
Very quickly, yeah.
They died a lot. A lot of them didn't survive. I love that. Well, caveman. Well, yeah, they also, they were very incestual as well. Should we just do that too?
The incest diet, why not? Yeah.
The incest diet. Joe Rogan says you should only fuck your cousin, so that's I don't know. What's your opinion on Joe Rogan? Because I actually like him. I feel like he gets unnecessarily attacked sometimes. Because one thing I like about his podcast, and I think we need to start doing this more as a country, is he has people on that he doesn't agree with. And they just have an open discussion where it's not yelling at each other. And it's kind of nice.
It's refreshing in its own way. Well, that's of course you have to sit through 2 hours of them smoking and laughing about things I've never heard of and wrestling. But once you get past that, it's great. Now, what I will say about him objectively is that he has created probably the most popular podcast there ever will be. Yeah, because his every day it's something different. So he has different groupings of fans. He has fans that watch him for philosophy. He has fans that watch him for, politics, and fans that watch him for specifically Alex Jones and all these different groupings. So somehow he just has a massive group of people that are from all different walks of life, which you don't really see in anything else.
Yeah. It's like a diverse group of people, which I think it's good because inherently I don't think because some people act like he's the worst thing ever. And I'm just inherently he's not that bad of a guy. You don't have to agree with someone 100%. Okay. So for instance, if people don't know, you are running for city council of
I kind of made it obvious.
District 4, if they're listening. So
if they're listening, I forget that people can do that now.
He has a banner in the background. It's him just selling. He's just selling himself. Big media. How much did that cost? How much did the Koch brothers give you for that flyer? Huh?
If I had to get into how much the Koch brothers was giving me, you'd be saddened.
No, so you're running
Koch brother, by the way. One of them.
Yeah, I still pray to him.
I understand.
I still pray.
He's still alive in my heart.
Yeah, because they're gonna. The dead one is still. I feel gonna have a big poll come November. I feel he's gonna come out of a bottle. Yeah, he's gonna come out of a bottle, and he's gonna be like, "The winner is."
I like that he becomes a mix between the genie and the Sorting Hat. Yes. I like that. That's what happens when one of the Koch brothers dies.
Yeah, when they both die. Ooh. It's gonna be hell.
But it's gonna be them those fighting robots, and whichever one's head pops up, that's who gets to.
Honestly, if we ran elections like that, I would be okay with that. Just like those Rock'em Sock'em robots. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I feel like it would be more legitimate than the current state.
Oh, definitely. That's why whenever originally back. You remember back in the day when we were there's no way Joe Biden will be the nominee, and. Because he was running around being like, you put me in that debate stage, I'll kick Donald Trump's ass. And you're like, what are you doing? But like, to be honest with you, nowadays, now that I haven't seen two people hug in a year, I'm like, you know what? I would like to see those two fist fight.
Honestly, this is what I'm pulling for, because I'm not thrilled about either candidate.
Really? You're not thrilled about Trump?
I'm not thrilled about Trump. I'm not thrilled about Biden either. I feel like we set a date for them to wrestle, and we make it as sweaty and as dirty as possible, because eventually they're both probably going to get sick.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we just get two normal candidates. We just go like, hey, let's throw Mitt Romney out in the right, and then let's throw maybe like a Pete Buttigieg, maybe a Tulsi Gabbard, heck, maybe a Bernie Sanders. We'll just throw someone out on the left, and then we'll just go back to normal. We'll all just be like kumbaya a little bit,
Sounds amazing.
And
what a life that would be.
Okay, so you're running for city council. First off, what made you want to run? Because if people don't know, you've had, and you still are, you're a successful, like, growing comedian.
Sure.
You've written on some TV shows.
Sure.
Like, what are some of your credits? I know BoJack Horseman is one. What else have you written for?
The most important one is Ellen.
You've written for Ellen?
Yeah. That's always the one I put out there as a joke. But yeah, no, I have.
Oh, that's cool. So you're a successful up-and-comer in the comedy world. Why are you pausing that to run for city council of Tulsa? Because I think it's interesting, because most people wouldn't do that. They're like, no, personally, my life is going well. Fuck where I come from. Like, for instance, what is it? That song, I hate this town. It's so washed up. And all my friends don't give a fuck. Like, there's songs about, like, fuck your hometown. I'm doing it. So what made you want to go back to your home? Like run for a government position in your hometown?
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous for sure. That and that's also to be fair, I did not think about the fact that I was basically putting my career on pause when I started this, which is exactly what I'm doing. And so, that's a thing I'm just now dealing with. Thanks, Tony. Existentially, I mean.
Sorry,
well, the thing is, like, the last few months, the last half a year, even to the full year, based on just things that have happened in the world, it's like it's become abundantly clear that leadership in the city I live in is not doing their job.
Yeah.
As I have said many times, like, I believe that Tulsa politics is drowning in a culture of indecision and inaction. And I believe it's time for a new group of leaders and a new generation of Tulsans to step up and lead the way into a better future. Because frankly, the people currently running it they all come from money. They all come from people that already held positions in their family in city government. You know what I mean? It's like, and also there's a lack of representation for people under 30. Like currently, like, so I'm 26 for anyone that doesn't know. I'm 26. People, I'm the youngest person running for elected office in Tulsa right now, and and probably for the past 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
And that's kind of part of it, is like, there's 9 city councilors here in Tulsa, 9 people that represent around 400,000 people. And the fact that not one of them is under 30 is a little appalling, because that's an entire group of people that they don't care about. They don't ask their opinion. We haven't been asked what we need or what we want in years,
Why have younger people attempted in the past to run? Or do you see that the younger people they say, hey, we really don't have a chance, so fuck it. We'll just let the old guard stay in place.
Yeah, so this is something I've thought about a lot recently, because I was like, what? I was like, what gives me the right to think I should do this when there's to be honest with you, much more qualified people that should be running for political office. I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But I realized what it is it's that young people have no idea that that this is even an option, because government in general is so inaccessible to people like, our age. Like we didn't even know it was an option to do it. And
it feels like you have to know people. It
Yeah.
feels like government is one of those things where it's like, oh, you have to know people. You have to either have, like you said, come from money or come from family that have already run, or you have no chance.
Yeah, no, that's entirely true. And it's kind of and so one of the things we're also doing is in building this campaign is that we're trying to bridge the gap between young people and the city of Tulsa, because there's no accessibility, there's no there's no, like what you were just saying, is that young people don't even know they can be involved in decision making.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main reasons I'm running, because all we needed is one person to step up and get the foot in the door, and that leads the way to everyone else.
So, when did you realize, like, hey, I'm going to do this? Like, give me a timeline where you're like, you know what? I don't see younger people stepping up. I want to do this. Like, what was, I would say, almost the final straw of you just being like, you know what? I think I'm going to run for District 4 City Council and see what happens.
Yeah, so it actually started with a joke.
Really?
Yes. So last year I was doing a show in a town called Holdenville, Oklahoma, which is a very tiny town. And I was there and I was doing a show, and I ended up deciding I should do crowd work, and which was a big mistake. So I was talking to the people, and it kind of came about that they didn't like their mayor. They were like, "We don't like our mayor," or whatever. And I was like, well, then I'll be your new mayor. And it was just a joke. And that joke got taken too far. And I spent the last half of my hour just doing a campaign speech to be their mayor. It got weird. Anyway, so then that joke got out, and the actual mayor heard about it.
Wow.
And he was like terrified, because he's run unopposed for like 15 years now, and everyone hates him. He does all kinds of crazy stuff, and he allocates money to things that shouldn't be. Anyways, like, basically what ended up happening is we ran a fake campaign for mayor in order to shed light on how corrupt this mayor is. And now there's a guy stepping up. And now there's a guy stepping up to be like, he hasn't officially announced it, so maybe I should be careful how I word this, but he is going to step up and run for mayor this upcoming election.
Wow.
And to basically be like, it's time for a new thing. So doing that,
I love the idea that the American political system, some of these politicians, they've run unopposed for so long that when they hear a man boy telling jokes at a bar, being like, I'm going to run for mayor, he's just like, Margaret, get the paperwork, burn them. They're coming. Like, that just sheds light on our system. That just the idea, just the joke of an out-of-towner being like, you know what, I'm coming in, and this is my town now. And people are like, yeah, we'll take it.
Anything's better than this.
That is so, man, it's great, but it's also kind of frightening.
It's scary. It's so scary.
Just knowing that, because he's not the only guy. There are people in Congress that have, the only reason they're in Congress is because they've run unopposed for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and you're not in Oklahoma, so this doesn't really mean anything to you. But there's a woman named Abby Broyles who was running against Jim Inhofe, who's been basically in government representing Oklahoma for, I think, like 20 years now, decades. And she's like the first person to have any chance against him. And of course, it's happening right now in 2020, which is like, this is the other reason, is because we were talking about this the other day at a meeting, which is that 2020 is like the most crucial year in politics, from not like, and I don't even mean like nationally, I mean like locally, because the thing is, like, we don't have time to figure out if it's going to be Trump or Biden at this point, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have time. We have to figure out who we want to represent our state and our city and our county and all of this stuff. And there's some amazing people, and I follow mostly Oklahoma, but we had some amazing people currently running. Like Kojo is running, and he's incredible. And if you don't know who he is, you should definitely look him up, because I think he'll end up being a pretty big name in politics nationally. But the thing is, like, it's such an important year to be like, listen, everything we've been doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing was, I wasn't, I worked for a different political campaign for president, but the things that Bernie was doing was revolutionary.
Yeah.
I mean, always has been, but especially this year, like making a movement to include people in politics that never were before, and doing it in a new way. And you know, we've really taken a look at some of those playbooks that people have used and said, okay, so what worked, what didn't? Because it's 2020, there's a pandemic. People are not really, they really shouldn't be leaving their house, but this is Tulsa, so everyone pretty much is normal anyway. And we were looking at it saying, it's 2020. What do we do to change how we're doing things?
And one thing I think what I really leaned towards Bernie Sanders was where he felt like the first politician in my generation where it felt like he actually wanted to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And it felt like he really cared about whether you were like a poor Hispanic family or even like a rich entrepreneur. He was like, how can we get both of these families together to benefit each other and how they can both prosper in this great country? Because I know it's fun to shit on America now, and there's a lot to shit about. But I still think it's a great country, and when it's run correctly, it can help a lot of people. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I really liked about Bernie Sanders. And I think like a Mayor Pete too, I had some issues with him, but we won't get into that. But it's like you see these younger people, they're trying to get people involved that usually wouldn't get involved. And one thing, and the reason I wanted to bring you on is because you see on like social media, everybody attacks Trump, everybody attacks Biden, everybody attacks Trump and Biden. At the end of the day, you're not going to reach those guys.
No,
How you're going to reach them is by electing your mayors, your city council members, your congressmen. Because if you put fire under their asses, then they're going to put fire under the president's ass. And they actually have his phone number. They can actually reach him and get in contact with him. So when I see people protesting and they're in the streets of Denton protesting Trump, I'm like, you really think Trump is being like, well, let's see what Denton, Texas has to say about me. He doesn't give a shit about us.
No, that's so true.
Like, let's go like give some hell to our mayor. Let's give some hell to our district attorney that isn't doing crap. And let's get him out, make our community stronger. Because if our community is stronger and is doing well, maybe in the higher level, they're going to look at us and be like, hey, what did Denton do to get better? And then other counties are going to follow suit. It's exactly. I just think nowadays it's just so easy to tweet at. I love when there's this one comic, I won't mention his name. I like the guy, but he will post screenshots of him just being like, at Donald Trump, you redheaded ape motherfucker. He's like, and he'll post and go like, look what I said to the president. I'm like, do you think he's reading that, dude?
He doesn't even read the things he retweets anyways.
Yeah, you're a road comedian. You're a road dog. You really think Donald Trump's like, we need that road dog vote? Like, I don't think he gives a shit.
Plus, I've seen a lot of road dogs. I'm pretty sure he's got most of the votes. I was going to say, like, that's a perfect point, because this is something I've been talking about a lot recently, which is like people only just this year found out, really, on a major scale, that Tulsa was home to one of the biggest like racial injustices and acts of violence and white nationalism in 1921 for Black Wall Street.
The Tulsa. And also the Tulsa
race massacre,
riot. Do you want to know how I found out about that? Watchmen.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Which is like, I watched the first episode of Watchmen, and it's at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you're watching it, and it's this violent, and I was like, okay, let me pause this, and I watched a YouTube video on the first episode, just being like, oh, is this real or is this not? Did they overreact? They're like, no, they kept it very straightforward. And I was like, how ridiculous is it that I learned about this on a show with a blue man who shows his genitals. He is the Louis C.K. of superheroes. And this is how I learned about one of the biggest massacres in in modern U.S. history. Like I shouldn't have learned. I should have learned that in school. I should have learned that in.
Of course. Well, you know what's crazy is so growing up in and around Tulsa, even people here, we didn't even know anything about it. We knew it was a thing, but there was no education on it until probably the last 5 to 10 years. And like we just started last week, we started excavating some areas of Tulsa that we're pretty sure are mass graves, because one thing not talked about is that there were way more people that were murdered and set aflame and allegedly bombed. If the bombing thing is true, which is a lot of evidence of, it's like the only time in U.S. history that we've dropped bombs on our own people, which is just a couple blocks from where I'm coming to now, and it's insane. And so this is a horrific event that already no one really knew about and learned from a TV show about superheroes. But this upcoming year is 100 years since it happened. Wow. 100 years. And you know what else I learned about it is that they didn't kill everyone. They also took people basically prisoner and then took them to our fairgrounds and just left them for weeks. Just neglected them, left them in this like giant fenced area and just left them. Horrific. Yeah. And every time I learn more detail about it, I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And it happened to people right here. And it's disturbing. And so anyway, we're coming up on 100 years of that since that happened. And one of the things I talk about is that this is our opportunity to make things as close to right as we possibly could. Obviously, we can never make it right. Yeah. That will never happen. Yeah. But there's things we can do, like education. There's things we can do, like taking care of our police force and making sure they're in check, because in Tulsa, they very much are not. And little things like that go to show that as everyone in the nation has their eyes on us next year, around this time, on the 100-year anniversary, that we could be a beacon of light and hope to the rest of the country.
Like unification?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, like, the rest of the country, we do not embrace these things that happen. Nobody's walking around being like, remember the Trail of Tears? Let's talk about it. Yeah. No, we don't want to talk about it. As Americans, that stuff makes us uncomfortable, especially as white guys. We don't want to talk about that.
But my thing is, it's so, what I find so ironic is, during the whole Confederate monument debate, should we tear them down? They're trying to tear down our history. They just want us to erase our history. It's like, no, dude, we don't even want to talk about our real history.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like those statues were built right after the Civil War to monument the men and women that died. Because not every Confederate soldier was a bad person. Most of them, like any war, it was the poor people. They're like, hey, you're fighting for us. And they just got thrown on a battlefield.
Absolutely.
But those monuments were put up during the Jim Crow era. They're cheaply made just to intimidate schools that wanted to, to stop segregation. Stop integration. And if we really don't want to forget our history, we got to start talking about the fucked up shit we did, and we did a lot of it. And guess what? We can grow from it and get better from it, but it starts with acknowledging it, saying we're sorry, and figuring out how we're still implementing it today versus in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I hear a lot, and so I'm pretty deep into the conversation regarding like natives, especially Cherokees, because I come from a full-blood Cherokee family, and I have a lot of Cherokee blood in me, despite the fact that it may not look like it. But despite the fact that my white balance is going crazy just on my own screen. But deep in these conversations, you have all these people, especially, and you'll see it a lot on Facebook, of like, well, I'm not the one that owned slaves. Yeah. Like, that's not the point of this at all. That's not, like, in my opinion, the conversation is the stuff that the people who did have slaves, the systematic, inequality that's been passed down, we do take part in. And I'm not saying that we should take responsibility for that. But I'm saying is we have to acknowledge it. Self-awareness is the key.
No, I agree. Self-awareness is the key. Those same people that were like, "Oh, I didn't own slaves." I've noticed personally, on a personal level, when I moved here from Germany, I got called Nazi all the time.
Of course you did.
And
yeah.
they're like, "You're a Nazi," and your family were Nazis, which they weren't. But like, when I go back to Germany, I can talk to my grandma and grandfather about their experience, and they're open about it, and they know it was a bad time, and they tell it from their perspective because they were both toddlers. And I used to have a joke where I'd go, people would say, "Your grandpa was a Nazi," and I was like, "No, he was actually a toddler during World War II," and he was like, "He was one of them toddler Nazis." And I was like, that is the scariest thing. A Nazi in lederhosen with toaster strudels. Like, they could win any war. They just walk up to the Americans like, "Do you want our treats?" And they're like, "Yeah." And it's like poison. Yeah, but it was a silly joke. But it's like my grandparents, they are around during that time, and they tell the story where they were actually shot at by the Nazi Germans.
Wow.
Because they were considered traitors because it was towards the end of the war.
Yeah,
they were losing, and they were sending children out. And but they're open about it. Like, my grandpa is happy that they got invaded by the Americans because he found out in education growing up what the Germans did. At the time, he didn't know what was going on because they were in like a secluded farm. But then they found out and watched tapes and videos of what their country did, and he's appalled by it. And he's disgusted, but he grew up around learning from it. And that's why I think I don't think Germany will go down that path again because they are so aware of it.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
As I say, someone that's extremely close to me, she comes directly from people that died in the camps. And her family, and then she grew up extremely Orthodox, like Jewish, and like to the point that she didn't even know like that there were people. She didn't know anything about people until she was 22 and finally left. And now she's secular or whatever. But what I did not know is that growing up, and this is very popular for a lot of Jewish families, is that they basically show you Holocaust videos, like not the ones you see on documentaries, like actual Holocaust videos.
Yeah.
From the day you're born, and they say, "Look at this. This is why we can't trust anyone. This is why we can't. This is why we don't let outsiders in. This is why being Jewish is so specific to us because if we let people in, they'll kill us every time." And I mean, you look at the Bible. Maybe that's not so far fetched of a idea, but it's like what I didn't know is like that. And now you're telling me this is that both sides. Both are trying to stay as educated about what had happened as possible.
Yeah.
And that there's very different reactions to that. Because, of course, they would have this reaction of, "Oh, now we can never trust anyone again." I mean, you lost so many of your people in that one incident. And then you take a look at this country, which I didn't know that. I didn't know how aware they were of it. I know
So what my grandpa says about my great-grandfather, he knew we were in a war, of course. But he honestly didn't know the atrocities they were doing at concentration camps and stuff. Because if you think, my grandparents are from a small town, 260 people, and it's a farmer town.
Oh, so then they probably didn't know anything.
So they're literally, "Oh, we get meat, we package meat, they're like, oh." So to them, they knew, we're going to a war. It's about getting our money back that we lost in World War I. We were kind of screwed over, but he really didn't. The coolest story my Opa has told me was, so this was towards the end of the war. The Americans came by their town, Speichertz, you can look it up. And my great-grandfather had the biggest plot of farmland, and the American soldiers were like, "Hey, can we park our tanks on your farmland because the Germans are coming from the mountains, and we want to shoot at them." And my Opa was like, "Yeah, go ahead." Because the previous week, the Germans came through and just shot at them. So he's like,
"Oh, wow.
Yeah, they don't care about us. So come on, Americans." So the city starts getting bombed, and my grandpa's in the basement crying. And he says this African-American soldier, first time he's ever seen an African-American soldier, runs down to the basement. My grandpa's crying, and he hands him a Hershey's bar and says in the little German he knows, "Don't worry, we fire next." And then they felt the firing, and then the Germans retreated. And ever since, Like my Opa has had this pride, and he said Germany has dealt with racism after that, of course, but he never felt racism because he interacted with a human who protected him, who he felt, oh, this is just another human being who cared about me as a kid, who was worried. And I think if we just brought more people together, like you're saying, and we just help each other out, we could become a better country, and we could become a better world, and realize we're all the same thing. We all just want to be okay at the end of the day.
Absolutely. That's kind of the thing of like, it's like there's American culture isn't exactly embedded with empathy, but
you're not wrong. Empathy, I think, is on the list. Like, if you had a whole grocery list, it's one of those things that it's not on the second or third page. It's like a page you ripped off and you threw it in the back seat. Yeah. And you're like, what was that one thing we had to get? Empathy. I will get it next time we go.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back. We got a Hershey's Kisses. We got to ask.
I have a lot to say about this, but do you take commercial breaks? Because my laptop's about to die and I got to grab my charger. So
we can. Yeah, go ahead.
Do like a 30-second ad.
Okay.
And I'll be right back.
Boo up, boop up, boo up, boo up. Want Landry Miller for city council. Landry Miller for city council. District 4. Vote for Landry Miller for district council of Tulsa. He will do what's right for you. He will do what's right for you. Landry will do what's right for you. District 4, City Council.
I did not know that you could sing reggae.
And that song, I just need you to say that song was sponsored by, or this message is approved by Landry Miller. So.
That song was approved by Landry Miller.
And now you owe me $30,000.
Oh no!
You said it. So fork up the cash.
I got tricked. I got bamboozled again.
That would suck if you had to end your campaign. You're like, well, guys, the campaign's over. And they're like, why? And well, I spent $30,000 on a song.
Was it like we didn't even have $30,000? Well,
was it a good song? No.
No, it was not.
It was a white guy singing reggae.
Yeah, but we have to use it now. So, speaking of which, I want to get back to what we're talking about. But have you heard the story of how my campaign ended and then restarted?
Not at all. No, I didn't know it ended.
Yeah. Okay. So this shows you just how messed up politics is. So, so the filing period to run was like June 8th, 9th and 10th. So it was like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I went in on the Monday and I was like, I'm going to run for city council. Call everyone. So I filled out all the paperwork.
I delivered the paper. I was like, paper, Landry Miller's running for City Council District 4. Did you hear the news? Also, Coca-Cola has cocaine in it.
And the Koch brothers were just born. They're going to be a disaster one day. So I filed to run, and also, by the way, my campaign manager has asked me to stop telling this story, but you know what? You got it. Okay. So after the filing period, after you file, there's like 5 days or something that someone can, I think it's 3 days, that someone can contest your campaign and say you're not eligible.
Yeah.
Which is, so because of the way my voter registration was, it wasn't showing up on the actual voter rolls.
Wow.
So the incumbent, she was like, I don't think you're eligible. And also you've garnered some attention and I think that's a little dangerous. So I'm going to, contest your campaign. And she did. And so on that Friday, so I joined on Monday, and then on Friday I got served with papers that were like, hey, by the way, you're not eligible, and we're going to talk about it next week. And it was like, oh,
Wow.
no. So I thought the best thing to do, talking to everyone, talking to people that have run previously, they were like, yeah, the best thing you can do is to choose to leave the race. That way, because we weren't really sure how we were going to prove that we were eligible to run anyway. So,
Yeah.
And we were like, maybe that means we're not. I don't know. So joined on Monday, left on Friday, which is maybe historically the shortest campaign.
No, I think Kanye just beat you.
Yeah, that's
Kanye dropped out today. He's like, I'm done.
Kanye.
Why? So it's like it's Kanye West. Dude, you're in the same boat as Kanye.
I mean, that's not the first time.
I always said ever since the first time meeting you, after we did the show together and we were at the East Side in Denton, I was just like, that guy gives me Kanye West vibes.
Boy, yeah. The Venn diagram between me and Kanye West, basically one circle.
Yeah, you dated a woman who became famous through porn. You had a very successful rap career, then turned gospel career.
You know what's really sad about that is that this is all pretty much tracking so far. So there is a point in my life where, and of course I'm running for public office, so this is not currently part of my life. Come on. But when hanging out with some comics, I used to get very drunk and smoke medicine, and would then have a rap persona named MC Baby.
Honestly, when did you do this? What year? Like roughly?
Oh man, maybe 2 years ago. Maybe.
Dude, if you would have waited 2 more years, you would be a successful rapper with Baby, Lil Baby, MC Baby.
MC Baby. And the thing is, like, the only time it works is if I am both intoxicated and high. Otherwise I cannot do it. And it's I'm not trying to brag on myself because this is obviously not a shining moment of my life, but it's impressive.
Dude,
like I could freestyle rap for like 30 minutes straight, and then I would become sober and I would be like, I can't even rhyme 2 words.
But honestly, isn't that every rapper? They just get really high, drink lean, and then go in the studio. You are just every rapper.
I should have stuck with it. You know what? We'll see how August goes.
You could be the first rapper for city council. It's like Hamilton. Every time you
I was about to say.
Go up and give a speech, you're like, here today in Tulsa, we're passing a tax bill that's gonna make some people shrill.
That was really good. That was good. Yeah.
Okay, so back to your campaign.
I do want to walk in with full like ruffles and pantaloons.
So back to your campaign. So you applied on Monday, and by Friday you were gonna drop out. You were out.
I was out. I was out.
Hasta la vista.
And then I had Saturday, Sunday. That was great. It was just me drinking really heavily. And then Monday came around, and the news, like Channel 8 here in town, they were like, hey, we want to talk to you. And I was like, you guys are 3 days late. And they were like, nah, we'll still run the story. So I did a news bit about, being young and being dumb and not knowing how to vote, apparently. Yeah. And they basically made me look like a giant fool.
Did they?
Yeah. They cut the interview real weird. And so it was like a whole thing. So then the next day I did some other show in town that ended up being much better. And I had to be like, by the way, the news thing you guys saw.
Yeah.
That is not at all what I said. And they cut that real weird. And then Wednesday was the hearing. And so at this point, I'm just like exhausted. I'm like, I don't even want to do any of this anymore. Like, I'm just going to fight to make sure that young people get into office at some point because it's obviously not this year.
Yeah.
So then the hearing happened and I didn't hear anything from them. And I was like, I guess that's it. And then a week later, or I guess it's been 2 weeks, 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from the people at the election board. And they were like, by the way, she never showed up to the hearing. And so we took a vote and we chose unanimously to keep you on the ballot. So you better get your campaign together. And at this point, I'm now like 3 weeks behind everyone else and trying to catch up now.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was like, wait, what? And so I had to call like the board of, the board director. And I was like, what is this letter you sent me?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we say you're eligible to run and we're encouraging you to move forward. And I was like, what in the God's name? So we're back in.
That's honestly, that gives me a little bit of a glimmer of hope. That because those members could have just been like, yeah, she's right. He's,
they easily could have.
Let's go with who was the lady who wanted to cut you out? What was her name?
Well, her name is Kara Joy McKee.
Kara Joy McKee.
It's not good that I'm just throwing her under the bus here.
No, it's fine. But they could have just been like, oh, she's right.
She's the incumbent. Why wouldn't she be? Yeah. And
then that gives me hope. That's cool of them to be like, hey, let's give this guy a chance.
Yeah, I just wish they had decided that like way earlier.
So now you're a little behind, but the campaign is trucking along.
Yeah, we're making it.
What have been your biggest joys on this campaign? And also, what have been some of the biggest struggles where you're like, okay, we have to work on this, and I didn't expect this to come out of it?
Oh, yeah. Well, so we're doing one of the things that I was talking about earlier about it being 2020 and like we're kind of doing things a little differently.
Yeah.
Is that also we've been forced to. Like we're kind of lucky because no one can really exactly do door-to-door knocking.
You could.
And we could, but also
you don't vote for me. If you don't vote for me, I'm gonna cough in your face right now. Write down on a piece of paper that you'll vote for me, or I'm coughing.
Also, I have a notary here who also will cough if you don't sign that right now.
Also,
this could work.
I got a whole men's choir, and they're very, very sick, and they're very, very.
And they want to sing for you right now.
They want to sing in front of your face, and they ain't wearing masks.
Exactly. So we're doing things differently because also everyone else that's running for this, district is, which they're all great. Honestly, they're. This is like one of the few times I can be like, oh yeah, they're genuine people.
Yeah.
I just don't believe their message or their vision, but I can see why they would reach that point. So, but the thing is, like, because we can't campaign normally, and thank God, because all these other people are very ingrained in Tulsa. Like they.
Can I also say just quick side note? That is just very nice to hear that the people you're running against, where you could easily just say, nope, they're all bad people. They're all because I feel like that's politics now, is just bullying and name calling. So you saying like, hey, they're good people, I just don't agree with them. Yeah. I think is very, especially coming from a younger person, it's pleasant to hear because you don't get that a lot from a politician nowadays. Right. I feel like politics has become bullying. It's become just calling people out, trying 100%. To get, so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. But, I truly believe that. And also one of the conversations I've had a lot recently, and then I'll get back to your question, is that because it's a local race, it's very local. Like, I have either met or know of the other people running, or I know a lot of people that support someone else. And so one thing someone asked me, so every week I'm answering some questions on Instagram. So, people at home want to go follow at Landry for Tulsa. They can do that. But one of the things that someone asked me was like, how do you feel about your friends supporting someone else? Because, it will happen and it has happened. Yeah. And kind of the thing was like, the idea behind that question is implying that there's an entitlement that you have to support your friend. And I'm like, that's not their job to support me. Like, literally, they don't have to do anything. They have no job. My job.
Also, you're a comic. And as comics, we know our friends.
People aren't showing up.
Yeah, they aren't showing up. People, it's randos coming to our shows. Isn't it? Yeah. It isn't a bus full of our friends being like, "Oh, we've heard his cheese joke 7 times, and we want to hear it an 8th time." Like,
listen, my cheese joke is the one everyone loves. So let's calm it down a little.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's absolutely true. I've sold more shirts for this campaign than I have my entire comedy career. It's depressing.
Yeah. I love how that's funny. They're just like, Landry, you're funny. But you know what you'd be good at? Fucking paperwork. fucking, political paperwork. That's,
yeah.
You have good jokes.
It's such a weird like dichotomy because it's like at first I was like, no one's gonna take this seriously. Like some young stand-up comic stepping up and being like, hey, let's make some change. Let's actually do something. I was like, no one's going to take it. And it turns out people take it very seriously and people are very tuned into what I have to say. And it's amazing and it's very validating.
I think the reason people do take it seriously, because we've seen a comedian this past election who tried to run for president. And they didn't take that seriously because that was just, it felt like a big joke. Yeah, he was going around comedy club to comedy club as a headliner and not doing jokes, just doing an hour-long campaign rally.
That is the weirdest thing.
And it's just like, oh, you're going to ruin your comedy career now too? Where I feel like with you, I think why people take it serious because you're not just trying to be like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to run against Donald Trump, and I'm going to – you're taking it at a level where people are like, oh, this is obtainable. So if I support this guy and I put time or money towards this guy, it doesn't feel like it's going to waste. It feels like, he has a chance. And if we get him in, our guy's in.
Well, it is absolutely obtainable. And one of those reasons is because of what I was about to talk about, which is that with it being 2020, we're changing it up and we're doing a huge social media campaign. Like that's how we're going to reach Tulsans. And because that's one, our only hope. And two, as the youngest people in the campaign, if we're going to get young people energized and energized and educated on how to vote and involved in the system, that's how you do it right now. Yeah. And everyone else running is in their 40s or 50s. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And this is about to be really sad. And remember, I do think they're good people, but I cannot help them with this because it will hurt me. But the thing they're not doing is I'm seeing their Facebook ads. I am. Landry Miller, 26 years old in Tulsa. I'm seeing their Facebook ads. Yeah. I am not their voter base. And no one my age will be, frankly, unless they have specific things they're interested in which case you can target your ads to reach those people. Yeah. But our ads are, and they should be rolling out in the next 48 hours. The ads that we've put money into, like I had a friend who does this for a living who was like, sat down with me and was like, okay, we're targeting this specifically to people under 35 that specifically vote for these things, like these pages, interact with these posts, live within this street. Yeah. And we're going one by one and hitting as many people, basically digital door knocking. Like, wow. We know that we're not going to be able to go door to door and knock on the door and be like, vote for me. That's not going to work this time. But what we're going to do is create content that is tailored to it's not pandering, but more so saying, this is something I believe in that I know you probably also believe in. And that's the first thing I want to show you. You know what I mean? And
also, do you think your background in comedy has helped you too? Because I feel like people really like a comedian, especially a funny comic. People want to get to know you. So if you add like a little comedy,
absolutely,
to your campaign, have you implemented comedy to your?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. And it's been very sad too, comedy. Like, as comedians, we're like, oh, that's pretty, reaching. But, to normal people, they love it. They think it's great. And the thing is, like, I did a show on Sunday that I was telling you about, and I basically got up there and I was like, because I had my normal credits, and the guy was like, hey, also, he's running for city council. And so I had to get up there and address that. And that was the first thing I did. I was like, by the way, I am running for city council for District 4. And I said, if you live within these streets, that's District 4. And if you don't, well, I really don't care about you. And it worked, and saying stuff like, funny. And just basically being real soft but real cynical about it. And I even said, like, I was like, so again, if you live in District 4, August 25th, you can vote for me. And for a young person, I gave my short little speech, my little 2 lines of why you should vote for me. And then I was like, August 25th. Also, if you're in District 4, you probably should ignore the next 15 to 20 minutes of what I'm going to say. And and then I went right into comedy, and everyone was happy with it. And also, anytime I needed a callback, boom. District 4 people. It was like,
that's funny.
And it ended up like working out great. And also I had enough people that, despite the fact that I was telling jokes about whatever the hell I tell jokes about, after the show, people still were like, we want to talk to you about the city council thing. That's what we want to talk to you about. And I was like, okay, so these two can coexist, which is what I was concerned about, you know.
Why do you think? Why were you concerned?
I have no idea. Well, mainly because it's like doing comedy, a lot of comedians, maybe you don't feel this way, but I know I do, is that like I feel like as a comedian, people are going to take me less serious about serious things. You know what I mean?
I think they will if you are one of those comedians who either first started or have been doing a long time and you can take the craft serious. Like, let's say you would have gone on stage and you were hammered and you're messing up line. No, like you were messing up lines.
No, you're absolutely right.
You're bombing. And then they would be like, oh, and he wants to run for office. He can't even do comedy right. But
you're absolutely right.
You're showing these people, yo, he did a 15-minute killer set. He did something I can't do.
Yeah.
You're telling jokes in front of strangers. So, maybe if he can pull this off, something that most people are frightened of doing and can't physically do because it makes them physically ill.
Up.
Yeah, they're like, oh, shit, maybe he could run for me. If he can do this and win over a crowd, I bet you he could win over a city council if it came to a vote. He could he could talk his way into a situation. He could talk his way to swing a vote into favor of District 4. So I think that's cool, man.
Well, yeah, it's one of the like big strengths I have. You know, one of the things about getting into politics is you have to stop being humble.
Yeah,
and that's been a big problem for me because growing up in the Midwest, it's like, oh boy, you're not supposed to say anything nice about yourself. And so, you know, but being able to be self-aware enough to know these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. One of those is like going, you know what, the other people running, they are not communicators.
Yeah.
They're a researcher and a developer, a realtor, and someone who's just been ingrained in local whatever. So it's like going, okay, well, I know how to communicate, and I know that I can speak better than probably most of them. And thank God for, 11 years on stage to make that happen. So, I'm very thankful for my comedy career being able to coexist with it. It's actually very nice. But it is putting it on pause, like, as you said before.
And this is for like listeners, and I tell listeners, even if you like comedy and you don't think, because being a comedian, and you can attest to this, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of long nights. The gratification isn't upfront at all. The gratification comes in small bites, but it's a lot of shit after it. And then you get another small bite of gratification. Then it's a lot of shit.
Absolutely.
And even let's say you don't think you have the potential or the time to become a full-time comedian. I tell people, go to at least one open mic and try it. Be the last person in front of a few people. Tell your 5 minutes. Because when you get off that stage the first time, I think it would just help you with public speaking in general.
Absolutely.
Because I know my senior year in college, I was just getting into comedy. I wasn't good yet, but I had done probably 20 or 30 open mics. And that alone, when I was going to pitch my movie ideas to get it made in our class, had helped me, because I was like, yo, I've done this in front of drunk people who have heckled me, so I don't care. And so I could use the few lessons I learned by doing comedy for a few months into normal conversation or into normal public speaking, and it allowed me to make my movie. So I always tell people, get out of your comfort zone and do things you think you might not be able to do, because it's going to make you a stronger person.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, no, absolutely it will. I've always, that's one thing I've always said, is that and even when people are like, I can't do stand-up, but I'd love improv. I'm like, then go do that too. I don't, even improv will be fine.
Do anything.
I won't respect you, but do it.
This is the second episode in a row where we shit talk improv a little bit. My improv friends, if you're listening to it, I like Ben and Schwartz.
I like most of those episodes. Yeah. Well, I really can't say too much about improv because I host a talk show that is a big portion improvised. So
yeah. So and we're wrapping up, but I just want to say. I feel the same. I don't think you're gonna win. This whole podcast has been, we're gonna chop it up, and I'm gonna make you look bad. It's gonna say, thank God for the Tulsa race riots. I'm gonna chop it up. I'm gonna make you
I like the idea that you just keep using the thank God before
thank God I'm sponsored by a Nazi. Like, I'm going to make you look terrible, Landry. You're gonna look awful.
Please do.
And I hope you cry during your commencement speech.
I will. Yeah, I'll cry.
No, but I'm glad you came on, because what I'm trying to do with this podcast is the thing I've seen with this generation, I think our generation in particular, is right now we have this viral culture where we just want something to go viral real quick, and then we're set for life. Where where it's I just got to make one video, or I just got to do one TikTok dance, and then I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, and everybody's going to love me, and then I'm going to be done. Where I don't think that's the message we need to send out to people, because I think how to create greatness, whether it's in entertainment or whether it's like for politics or whether it is even just your career, is there's going to be ups and downs, and it takes hard work to achieve any goal. And you can't just take a pill, or you can't just download an app to succeed. So I like to end every episode on 3 questions. And I'm going to do it more on your comedy side, because I don't think it really applies. Like the first question is, when you're growing up, who was a comedian that you watched, where after you watched their special or you saw them live, where you're like, oh my God, do you think I could do this?
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to try and answer this because I didn't really watch stand-up comedy growing up. I couldn't even tell you who was the first comedian I saw, but it wasn't until late.
Okay.
And that's the weird thing, is because I started at 15. But it was watching Seinfeld, and it was watching Jim Carrey do anything.
Yeah.
And it was watching Dana Carvey. The first movie I remember seeing in theaters was that awful Master of Disguise movie.
When you're a kid, it's great. When you're a kid,
it was so good as a kid. Oh my
God!
God.
When you're a turtle, you're like, yeah,
exactly.
you are.
By the way, do you just real quick? Do you know the story of that scene?
No.
Okay, that scene was filmed on 9/11.
The turtle scene?
Yes, it was. And they paused when 9/11 happened. They paused for a moment of silence and then resumed filming. And Dana Carvey was just in his full turtle outfit, just standing there.
He couldn't even bow his head during the moment of silence. He physically
he just tucked.
his head.
That is one of my favorite pieces of trivia about movies, by the way. Is
amazing.
That happened during 9/11.
Which you could say was the 9/11 of that film.
Yes, it was. I like to think that as he went and bit that guy's cigar out of his mouth, that there was a tear from all the people from the tragedy of 9/11. Okay, sorry.
No, that's great. So you were into like goofy, just silly guys.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, yeah, I remember like as a kid, like I was like, I should live in New York because I watched Seinfeld. That was it. Like I don't know how to explain this, but I was obsessed with that show. Oh, yeah. Like by the time I was 11, I knew the entire trivia of the show. Like if we played Seinfeld Trivia Pursuit right now,
you'd win.
Yeah. And that was the thing, is like that rhythm stuck with me forever. And and that's why I'm known for my Seinfeld impression. But so that led me into Larry David, and those two, I would say, really defined my comedic voice.
Okay.
Because my stuff is very, it's out there, sure, but it also is very observational of taking this awkward moment and then stretching it for all that's there.
Yeah, your comedy is definitely, that's great. That's awesome. Okay, so the second question.
I feel like I'm on Andy Richter's podcast now.
Hey, the second question. Hey, hello. I could have been a star. But no, I love Andy Richter. Actually, growing up, I watched Conan. Conan was my favorite late night, and my dream, because I was such a shy kid and had such stage fright and everything. Andy Richter became my guy because I was like, I can be that guy.
Yeah,
he says something funny, and I just tag along where I could just be the friend. I was like, I still
be the
to
friend.
This day, I just want to be the friend of the guy. I don't need the show named after me. Can I just be the friend?
Who needs it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So the second question is, this is my favorite question out of the three. So
and you put it second?
Yeah, why not? If
Sure.
Because people are they're gonna tune out probably pretty soon. No, so was there a gig that you've done where in the moment you were just like, why am I doing comedy? Why am I doing, you know what I mean? Why am I pursuing this? This is tough. This is terrible. But now you look back on it as a fond memory where you love telling the story and it brings you joy, where in the moment you're just like, fuck this situation.
Yeah. Sure. There's plenty of those. Boy, I'll tell you one that happened pretty recently.
Okay.
Because and it in the moment it was the worst experience of my life. But so 4th of July, there was a local cannabis shop that they were like, we're going to have a party and we want 2 comedians to come out and we swear it's social distanced. And I was like, you know what? I need the money. I'll do it. And so I did it. And also it was its own thing. They had like hired 2 other comedians and then canceled on those 2 comedians last minute to hire me and someone else. And then those 2 comedians posted on our local group, like, what the hell is this? And I was like, oh, this is the last thing I need right now. I wanted to do this gig and no one know about it and just take the money and walk away. And so it became like a whole thing. And also it was like 2 black comics and then 2 white guys that replaced them. So it like just didn't look good at all. The situation looked real bad. And I was like, I didn't know shit about this.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did the gig and it was 12 people in a room that was awful. They were all upset because it had rained up here during 4th of July. So they didn't get to see the fireworks they thought they were going to see. They saw fireworks off in the distance, but not the ones they thought. And and so my friend he's opening and he's doing some stuff and it's not going well. And then it's my turn and I'm like, oh, I do not want to be here. And I just said that, which felt like the right thing to do. And I just like, I don't want to be here. So instead of standing and doing stand-up, this was kind of a lounge. And so I just went and I sat on a couch near the rest of them. And I just sat on the couch telling stories, knowing I wasn't like, because everything I tried to do that had a laugh was not getting a laugh. So I just was like, you know what? Screw all of this. I'm just going to sit here and tell stories until my time runs out because that's all they're paying me for. They're paying me for X amount of time not to be funny. And I stuck it to them for that one. Because boy, I'll tell you, I was not funny. And so I sat there and the whole time in my head, I was like, you will never work again. This is when comedy ends for you.
Yeah.
You'll never do another show because these 14 people, you've ruined their 4th of July. They're all staring at you dead-eyed.
Was it so bad you thought they were like, fuck it, let's reunify with Great Britain?
Yes, that's exactly right. They were like, we watched Hamilton last night.
And King George was actually our favorite
We kind of get what he was saying.
We will be back.
Yeah, so I just sat there and took that bullet going, I'm never working again. Like thinking like, thank God I'm running for city council. Now I never have to do comedy. Oh my God. It was so bad. And it was one of those shows where you just give up and you just, thank God there was a couch I could sit on. And a guy, he felt so bad. He gave me garlic chicken. He felt so bad for me. He went down to the food truck, ordered chicken, and brought it to me and handed it to me while I was in the middle of my set.
Oh, during your set?
Yeah. He handed me a box. And I go, what is this? And he goes, it's garlic chicken. I thought you needed it. And I'm like, oh, that's when you know you're doing good. And I mean, it was just flop sweat of just like, and I sat down. I was like, I've committed to this now. But then the thing is, like, a couple days went by and I thought about it and I go, you know what, though? First of all, those 14 people are all going to die of meth this year. So it's not even going to be, they're not going to remember me.
Yeah.
And I was forced to do a gig a couple days later that I really couldn't get out of, And so I did it and it was fine. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Comedy can be fun.
That's all. And you got free chicken.
Sorry, it wasn't a great story. I really let you down on it.
No, that's good.
Sorry, pal.
You could have. If
you know what? I could have told the story of driving to Denton to do a library gig.
That was a good one. Can I say this? If that story is equivalent to your campaign, I say pack it up now.
I say get out.
I say get out of town. Try Oklahoma City next year, bud, because Tulsa isn't the city for
It's not working.
No.
It's not working.
And then lastly, if you could go back in time and tell a younger you.
Kill Hitler? Oh.
No, give yourself advice, whether it's your comedy career or now your political career. If you could give yourself one nugget of advice, what would you give yourself?
Yeah, I have a good answer for this, I think. Okay. But it's sad. Okay. It's called Go Out and Buy a Gun. No, let's see if I switch. This is actually something I've been thinking about a lot recently and talked about in therapy. So I hope you're ready to get real, America. Yeah. Is that one thing I wish I could go back and change is that, so my dad left when I was young and just got out of there. And so the thing that always stuck with me was my self-worth. And so I don't give myself enough credit because when I was 7 years old and my dad left, I was like, well, what was he? Obviously, I wasn't good enough to stick around for. Yeah. So that stuck with me for all these years, and is a lot of the big reasons why I am no longer in LA and why I don't have as good of a career as I could have, and all these different things. So the one thing I would want to go back and tell myself is people leaving your life has nothing to do with you. Yeah, not a parent, at least, it has nothing to do with you. Your worth isn't defined by the fact that you don't have a father. Yeah. Or that your grandparents are like, you're too liberal for us. That's not you. Your worth isn't defined by that, and shitting on yourself every day isn't going to get you anywhere. So I wish I could go back and stop that behavior before a year ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, dude, that just that hit me on a personal level. Because I recently have been going through that just with some family members in general, where every time I saw them, it was just always constant negativity. Oh, yeah. And I just felt like I was trying to succeed in comedy for them. But every time it was never good enough for them. Any achievement I got, they're like, eh. And then it wouldn't make me happy. No. But then I am happy about what I've achieved. So my thing is, I think like you were saying is, who gives a shit what they think? If you're happy doing what you're doing and you're not hurting anybody, fucking keep doing what you're doing. And also, I just want to clarify, when you said your father left you, I said into the microphone, you didn't react, and I don't want people to think I'm a piece of shit. I go, I get it. And you didn't react. I didn't want people to think I did not hear that. And I wish I had, because that is beautiful. I just want people to clarify. Yeah. I know we're wrapping up, so I'll make this quick. On that note, is I remember my parents were very adamant about me going to college and getting a degree and stopping this silly thing of comedy. Yeah. And I basically cut ties with them for a few years because of it, and was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm going to go do. And then, over the past couple of years, they've come back and been like, we were wrong. And we should have been more supportive. We just were worried because comedy doesn't make sense. My mom, she knows exactly how much she's getting paid for the next 4 years. And if that changes, she'll lose her mind. She is so structured. And she was like, I just literally didn't understand how you were making it work. Yeah, and I was like, I get that. That's how my dad was, because I was like a lazy kid growing up, kind of a shithead. I never really wanted to do my homework and all that. And then I went to Texas State, dropped out. Because I was like, freedom for the first time. And then I was like, I want to do comedy. And he's like, you've never really put your mind towards anything. And I was like, yeah, but this is the first. He finally realized it's the first thing I actually care about.
And so that's why you're going to give it your all, because you're like, oh, I like this. This brings me joy. So I want to succeed in this so I can keep doing this. And that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, if you have negativity, whether it's your friends or family, you don't have to listen to it. And you can set boundaries. And you can, like me and my dad, anytime he brought up money with comedy, I'd be like, yeah, I'm driving this place. I'm getting paid $30. He goes, well, that doesn't sound fiscally responsible because you're losing money, actually. I would literally just hang up the phone.
Yeah.
And after the third time, he would just stop asking me how much I was getting paid. Yeah. And it just became a thing where it's like, he doesn't ask anymore. He goes, well, was the gig fun? And I was like, yeah, the gig was great, Dad. But it's like, to set your boundaries. If you want to do something, and it's going to be hard work. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be handed to you. But hey, if you go at it, hey, you can maybe be like Tony Casillas or Landry Miller doing a Zoom podcast at 5:00 on a Wednesday during a global pandemic. This could be you.
This could be you.
You could have tens of listeners listen halfway through each episode of a podcast and then just leave a review because they feel bad for you and want to act like they're supporting you. And guess what? This is the good life.
You could have a career based on garnering sympathy from others, just like us.
Where they're like, well, if I don't give this podcast a 5-star review, I think he's going to gain 10 more pounds, and we don't know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, boy, because there's a day that we stop putting out episodes, and it's not a happy one. Not for anyone.
Yeah. Hey, man, I just want to thank you for coming on, taking the time. This is a great episode.
Yeah, no, my time's not worth anything, apparently. So,
do you have anything you would like to promote?
Hey, you know what? I do all kinds of stuff. And if you want to listen to like a bunch of podcasts and stuff, you can go to soundstooth.com. That's my network of all these different locally created, locally sourced content, podcasts, web series, all that kind of stuff. Or just keep listening to this over and over. Whichever you want to do. And if you're at all interested in local politics, or if you want to help out someone, even if you don't live in Tulsa, you can still donate to the campaign, even $5. It helps us a lot with getting yard signs and flyers and stuff like that. You can go to LandryForTulsa.com. And that's it for my plugs. Thank you, Landry. Just want to let you know, this podcast, you have convinced me so much. My roommate is packing up my bedroom right now halfway through this podcast. I texted him. I said, pack up. We're moving to Tulsa. Oh, no.
So I'm moving to District 4 just to vote for you. But there's a little stipulation.
I don't have an extra room.
No.
Oh, okay.
Our room's not good enough.
Uh-oh.
I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a yard for my dog that I don't have yet that I want.
Okay, but you're getting it on the way. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a highway dog, but it'll be a good one. His
name's going to be Benny.
Yes. Listen, if you need a house, the other guy running for city council, he can help you out.
That would be shitty if I live with him and he's like, oh, so did you vote for me? And it's like, nah, I went with Landry.
And he's like, you piece of shit.
But hey, man, thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was, it was a time.
Thanks.
See you, buddy.
And that was me talking to Landry Miller. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Go follow Landry at Landry for Tulsa on Instagram. I think he's going to be doing some really big things, guys. I'm rooting for him. Also, again, if you like this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps out. And also, you can follow me on Instagram at comedian Tony Casillas or on Twitter at comedian Tony C. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for listening.
We have heard of him, Tony.